All right, good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to the January 25th, January 29th meeting of the Strategic Priorities, Communications, and Intergovernmental Cooperation Committee. I'd like to call the meeting to order. Are there any declarations of conflict of interest? Seeing none, could I get a motion to approve the agenda? Moved by Councillor McKinnon, seconded by the Deputy. And the mayor, his worship, will not be with us. I think he has another function he had to attend for today, so he won't be here. So we have basically three items on the agenda today. The first is a presentation from the Charlottetown Yacht Club, and we have Steve Cudmore, Don McGinn, and Andrew Rankin, who are here to speak to us about we don't know what, but we'll soon find out. So anyway, I'll turn it over. Steve, are you going to be moderating the presentation?
Yes, I will. I'll be going through the presentation, and then following the presentation, we will get into question and answer. And
Okay.
so I'll kick things off.
Okay, floor is yours.
Thank you very much. We have a lot to cover in a very short amount of time, so I am going to get right into it, and I'll apologize in advance for running through a little quickly, but I think it's all very important. Charlottetown Yacht Club is a not-for-profit facility that has been providing recreational programming in Charlottetown for 102 years now, and for the past 50 years, we've really evolved into what I would described as a multi-purpose public community center, out of which several independent businesses run. We provide a tremendous amount of programming to residents of Charlottetown and beyond, to both adults and children. And we provide some very attractive businesses for tourists. And collectively, we employ upwards of about 100 islanders by times. And over the course of the 102 years, I think you'll see that we've really contributed to the fabric and the growth of the Charlottetown waterfront. And over the next 10 minutes, I'd like to, we don't have a, hang on here. This may need to duplicate something here. Try somehow, or sometimes it just sees one screen. I think this will do it. So, I think there we go. Perfect. So, perfect. Okay. So yeah, over the next 10 minutes, I'd like to show you the extent of the services we provide to the broader community, what we are up against as an organization, and frankly, as the broader community, and also to show you what opportunity that presents. And of course, we're also here to ask for your help. So what I'm about to take you through now are pretty much just all snippets from what you would find on our public website when you go to cyc.pe.ca. So what I'm going to take you through is a bit of a description of the public services that we provide. And one of the most visible and most visited attractions at the CYC is, of course, Salt and Sol. I think you'd be hard-pressed to find anybody in this room or elsewhere that hasn't been through these doors once or twice. It's a great product for the city, and it's a very, very popular destination, and it's also a really big employer in the city as well, too. Right below Salt and Sol is what we call our Great Hall. It really amounts to a community room that is available for anyone to rent at below market rates. You can go to our website for details on this, but we host a number of weddings every year. There are banquets, there are businesses that host events out of there. We have family reunions. So there's all kinds of stuff that runs out of our community hall. And last year we upgraded some of our banquet equipment, and over the winter we upgraded our sound equipment as well too, to make it just better for anybody who uses it. This area also spills over into community space on the front lawn, which often can get fenced off for private events. It's a very, very busy piece of the yacht club. One of the individual businesses that runs out of the Charlottetown Yacht Club is Saga Sailing Adventures. They have been around for years and years and take tourists and locals alike out for sailing adventures. Another very interesting businesses that runs out of here is the Sol Pattern Tavern that operates off our docks and is very popular for things like stags and stagettes, and of course tourists like to get out on the water on it. Another business that we see operating out of our premises is the Seal Watching Tour. They run tourists out to Governor's Island nonstop during the summer months. Again, a very, very busy operation. And I mentioned before, we are a not-for-profit facility at CYC. One of the other not-for-profits that we host is the PEI Rowing Club. And not only, well, this thing has grown, Rowing Club has grown dramatically over the last 5 years. Not only do they row out of our docks, but they also train on our premises and recently put in a Canada Games team. And here's a biggie. Thanks to the sponsorship a number of years ago by the City of Charlottetown, we have a public kayak ramp. You may recognize some of the faces in this crowd. It may very well be time to update some of the new pictures on our website. But this is, as you'll see, a very, very popular service for locals, and of course tourists take advantage of it as well too. So thank you very much to the city for your support on this. When it comes to sailing, obviously we do a lot of sailing. We have racing Monday and Wednesday nights, and again, this is on our public website. We invite members of the public and tourists alike to come down to the yacht club and help us sail our boats. And it may come as a surprise to most people, but there are a lot of boats that actually need crew. So we really welcome people signing up for our crew lists, and even walk-ons are welcome. People literally show up to our on the deck of the yacht club on Monday and Wednesdays and can often hop on a boat, which is a lot of fun. We also have a real-time weather station, thanks to a partnership with UPEI and the Center for Climate Change and Adaptation. Ironically, climate change is one of the things we're going to be talking about in a couple of minutes. We also host the PEI Boating Festival, which is a collaboration with the other marinas in Charlottetown and our friends in Summerside, where we have power boats, sailboats. We have a race up and back to Summerside, a cruise up and back to Summerside, and around the island race every couple of years. And we also have tall ships. A couple of years ago, we had Spirit of Bermuda, and not only was that successful, we've created a formal partnership with Spirit of Bermuda because they want to keep coming back again and again, and that's a really good relationship. This year, we have the tall ship Oriole that's coming for the boating festival, and next year we hope to get the Blue Nose. We almost had the Blue Nose this year, but they had some scheduling issues that kept them from making it. But that's a very interesting and very much a growing event. And of course, for about the past 60 years, Andrew, how many years have we run the Charlottetown Race Week? 50 or 60 years, half a century at the very least, we've run the Charlottetown Race Week, which is an absolute annual fan favorite. We attract a ton of boats from off-island. There's a lot of activity that spins off of that. Believe it or not, the racing on the Charlottetown Yacht Club has gone on for, I think it's about 100 years. If you go back in our archives on the public website, there's some details there. But the Charlottetown Race Week is a big event where it's not only just about the participants, but a ton of locals come down and participate in the party. And of course, there's a lot of, more than half of the competitors are coming from off-island, bringing their boats, bringing their crews, bringing their families. And of course, once they're here, they tend to stay a while. One of the massive programs that's been running out of the Charlottetown Yacht Club for literally generations is the junior sailing program. Every year we put through a few hundred kids through this program to learn boating skills, boating safety, water safety in general, And not only does it provide a lot of good programming for youth, it also provides a lot of employment for the instructors that teach the program. A couple of other separate entities that operate out of the CYC is WaveSkills is an adult learn to sail program, tremendously busy program that has a lot of uptake for adults. And there's the Blue Heron Power Squadron that provides educational programming and skills for powerboaters. So, collectively, as a result of the youth programs and the adult programs that we've been running literally for generations, it's created more boaters than we actually have facilities for. So in part, that has been responsible for the growth of boating on our Charlottetown waterfront, and which I believe is really contributes to the fabric and to the attractiveness of our community. And I don't think you need to go too far into any tourism report. Access to the waterfront and activities is a huge driver for any tourism product. So I think we've done at least a little bit to contribute to that in our city. So that's a little bit of a recap of who we are and what we do. What we're really here to talk about today is the next 100 years. That's a little bit about the last. Let's talk about the next. So that's going to bring us up to what we're up against. So we'll see if this video is going to work for us. Play that once more, just for effect. We're up against Mother Nature. Unfortunately, that's an all too common occurrence on our waterfront. We're with the increasing severity and frequency of weather events is impacting our premises dramatically. What you see here is the water's up to and over top of the wharves, and that happens with surprising frequency. Here's the result of that kind of weather event. Just utter devastation. This is the brand new walkway that was put in by CADC just a couple of years ago. So, of course, we've patched it up, slapped Band-Aids on it, and, put some pilings back in place, but it just keeps happening.
What event is that from, Steve?
Which one was this? Was this Dorian, Andrew? I think that was Dorian. Yeah. So what you'll see here, if we want to talk about rising sea level, this is the East Wharf, and a couple of slides ago we had the picture of the junior sailors on this wharf, and right now all of them would be up to their shins in water if they were standing there now. And again, this is obviously, when you pair this overtopping of water with the degrading infrastructure, you'll see what the results are in a minute. This is Fiona, some damage from Fiona. When the water piles over top of the wharf and then drains out, it takes the land with it. And unfortunately, in this basin, this is where, just a few years ago, we did, with the help of city's contribution, we did dredging in order to be able to continue to offer our programming. Right behind here, by the way, is where the PEI Rowing Club operates out of, and right to the right of these timbers is where the walkway is to go down to the docks. So, it's important to talk about for many reasons, and safety is certainly one of them. Safety is one thing, environment is another. A picture says 1,000 words. This is the West Wharf, underwater. This needs to be raised to be able to sustain the infrastructure over the next 100 years. So this is a little bit about what's happening on top of the on top of the water line. Now let's take a peek below the water line. This is what's holding the city of Charlottetown back from sliding into the Charlottetown Harbor. You know, it's just gone. It's well beyond its useful life. Let's take look a little bit deeper. This is at the bottom of the infrastructure. It's just crumbling and non-existent. So both at the top and at the bottom, there's nothing left of this. This is the pilings right in front of where that video you saw took place. So you can imagine the kind of pounding this infrastructure takes, and there's just not much left of it. Taking a look at the picture to the left, if you line up that gray building on the left and you see the straight line of the gray building and then compare it to the timbers in the foreground, just on the other side of that very attractive hose in front of you, you'll see how that entire wharf is bowed out and at risk of falling into the ocean, which is where the junior sailing boats reside and where the City of Charlottetown public kayak dock exists. And the picture to the right, you'll see that structure protruding in the background, beautiful sunset in the background. In the foreground's not so nice. But what that structure is protruding out is where the ramp goes to access the walkway to the PEI rowing group and also to a number of the other boats and to where the Wave Skills adult sailing boat operates. We've been on this file for the infrastructure committee here, which is in front of you, has been on this for almost a decade. This is not new to us. We've been chasing this problem forever. We've had countless studies by engineering groups. We've got half the committee is our professional engineers. This is a letter from Harborside in 2021 saying the seawalls have exceeded their useful life and have deteriorated beyond reasonable repair. And this is in 2023. They reiterate there is no practical manner to repair this. The seawalls have deteriorated beyond reasonable repair. The only feasible option is replacement of this structure. So that's what we're faced with. Here's where the opportunity lies. All of the work has been done by this committee to be shovel-ready for a very major infrastructure project. We've taken this file to ACOA. They've seen it with, they've had their own engineers on site assessing the issues, and we were successful in receiving this letter from ACOA January 12th, just a couple of weeks ago, where they've committed $3,679,000 to the repair and replacement of the seawall that we're talking about. I mentioned we're shovel ready. We are. If we had the rest of the funding in place, we could be breaking ground at the first available weather opportunity. I won't take you through the details of the plan. We certainly can. But in the interest of time, I'll just get on with the gap and the ask. Taking a look at the entirety of the project, it's going to come in at around $5.5 million, adjusted for inflation, plus the raising of the Ponnell Wharf, which is the wharf upon which that Kenmac oil tank or fuel tank exists. By the way, that fuel tank provides the only fuel for boats, and whether you're a commercial fishing boat or a recreational boat or a visiting boat from away, which we get a considerable number of, that fuel tank that is underwater periodically, or certainly the wharf is underwater, all that has to be raised. So the $5.5 million gets us where we need to be for the next 100 years, and with the contribution of the federal government, we have been, with the contribution of CYC, we're prepared. We know we need to come to the table and have some skin in the game here. We can contribute $400,000. We are not for profit, but we've been operating very successfully, and we believe we can continue to with this with the help of this infrastructure. CADC, this is an estimate. They own part of the seawall, and they've said they will come in on this project with us. I stress this is just an estimate, pro rata based on what we believe their share of the seawall is. The gap is about $1 million, and if we split that gap, we of course want to talk to the province as well. If we take a look at that gap and 30% of it is something that the city would entertain financing, your portion would come in at $318,000. And with that, we could get a fully renewed infrastructure for the benefit of all residents of the city, tourists, children, adults, the like, and put us in good stead for the next 100 years. So with that, I will stop and invite any questions.
All right, open the floor to Councillor McKinnon or Deputy Mayor if you have any questions.
Sure. To you, Chair, and if you're not sure of the answer, I'm just wondering, and maybe this is a question for our manager of finance, what currently do we contribute to the Charlottetown Yacht Club on an annual basis?
Yeah, we don't know. I'll speak for Eleanor there, and we don't have that information, but we can get it to you if.
Great. Yeah, it would probably be good to have just for the rest of council when further discussions come up. I'm just curious.
Steve or Don or Andrew, do you have any idea of any? Can you speak into the mic, Andrew?
Sorry, there was a contribution made to the dredging program in 2016, and I believe it was $70,000 over 10 years. So
17,000 over.
70.
70,000
So
over
I
10
believe
years.
right now we're receiving $7,000 a year.
Yep. And is that tax relief?
No, that was the contribution towards the dredging program.
And Chair?
And I believe is there 3 years left on that, $7,000 a year? Something along those lines, yeah.
And Chair, just to follow up on that, the businesses that you outlined in your presentation, Salt and Soul, the banquet facilities, the tours to Governor's Island, the paddle tavern, sail cruising, are those owned by the Charlottetown Yacht Club, or are they rental clients? And my second part of that question is, the actual existing building where Salt and Soul is that a building that is owned by the Charlottetown Yacht Club? And do we offer any property tax relief on that? Those are my three questions. Thanks.
So the Salt and Soul is a rental tenant of CYC. Saga Sailing Adventures is there. Saga is completely independent. The Seal Tours is independent. Wave Skills is independent. Soul Paddle Tavern is independent. The banquet hall is CYC, part of the CYC. Yeah, we own the physical property and operate the banquet hall.
And we get no tax relief.
And get no tax relief. Right.
Thank you.
Councillor McKinnon?
Thank you. No, I don't have any questions, but I did enjoy your presentation. Thank you.
I have a question, Steve. You haven't spoken to the province yet, am I correct? Did you say that?
We've had some preliminary informal conversations, but we haven't made a formal presentation.
Okay. And has CADC confirmed the interest in investing the $368,000?
Yeah, John, do you want to speak to that?
Verbally.
Verbally? Okay.
We know that we have been on the agenda there. I don't know, I know the CAO from here sits on that committee as well? Yes, or attends the meetings?
Yeah, we have a representative, so I haven't been.
Okay.
Okay. All right. Any more questions? All right, well, thank you for coming in. Oh, sorry, Deputy Mayor, you have another question? No. So I guess thanks for coming. Thanks for sharing, preparing the information, and giving us a bit of background and what the ask is, and highlighting the possible funding partners and all that. And we are in the midst of budgetary preparations ongoing, and we'll take all this as part of our information and figure out where we go from here, I guess. Steve?
Yeah.
One more point?
Yeah, thank you. If I could just make one more point. Two things is we understand the timing of the ask is, you're in your budgetary discussions. We just recently got the commitment from the federal government, so we realize we're coming to the table a little bit late for this. The bulk of the work is going to be coming over in the fall and into the new year. So the timing of our financial need hits this budgetary year as well as the following budgetary year. That's the first thing that I want to say is, but the second thing I need to communicate is the urgency of the commitment, not necessarily the dollars, but the commitment. Because if, we have the commitment of the federal dollars, but unless we can execute that, unless we can get the full funding in place, we can't get started. And if we don't get started, those dollars disappear.
So what you're saying then is that the 318,000, if it were to go, could be spread over 2 years, 3 years? Is it really, you're really just looking for a commitment to get to be provided with it? What would your time frame, what would the time span be? Like 2 years, 3 years, 5 years? Like what would you need?
Don, I'll let you speak to that.
Well, our plan is to, once we get this lined up, immediately be out and secure a contractor. We're fighting against a number of things. Number one is the federal commitment, and we don't want that to disappear. But also, we're fighting inflation. And the more we put this off, the more it's going to cost when we do this. And as Andrew said, we've been at this almost 10 years, and we've seen the costs just balloon. And if we don't do something, we won't be able to. So we have to capture that. So we want to begin procuring the piles, the concrete panels that go in, the necessary materials that go with it, so that in September a contractor can start at work and work through the fall period and into the winter to do the bulk of the work. Then in 2025, then it becomes more of the cleanup in the periphery, things like the walkway that's used as part of the downtown walkway along the waterfront and stuff can be reinstated so it's available for the tourist season. So we're largely fall of 2024 into a good portion of 2025. And some of the work, even on the Pownal Wharf and things, can be pushed to the fall of 2025, but sort of in that time span.
Okay. Steve, I know you, in the interest of time, went over, kind of skipped the schematic drawings there. Would that be something that you would be able to pass on to us so we could have a little bit more of a deeper look, just so we can understand visually, where the reinforcement is going to be happening? Like, I got in my mind that it's kind of on the east side of the old Harborside apartment buildings, and it kind of goes around and then it comes out and like this. So if that could be highlighted and indicated in terms of where the actual support is going and how it would be done, I think that would be helpful as well too.
Yeah, no problem at all. The very last thing I want to say on the urgency is not only are we battling inflation, all that other stuff, the federal money that we're accessing is Fiona related. So, it's very unlikely we'll get another crack at this unless we get another disaster, which certainly nobody's wishing for. So this is really our one opportunity to leverage an enormous pool of capital for the betterment of our downtown infrastructure.
Okay.
And Chair?
Go ahead, Deputy.
Thank you. And did I see at the beginning of the presentation, the letter that you received from ACOA, and I think it was the 14th of January, I think they have a timeline as well where you have to either accept or say no to this money. And that, was it 60 days?
60 days.
Yeah, so you have a small timeline. Yeah,
That's right.
okay, thank you.
All right. Good. Thanks for coming in. Thank you. Okay, good. All right, moving right along. Is Cindy presenting next here, Eleanor, or are you presenting? Okay, so additional recommendations of the Remuneration and Allowance Commission. So there's a report, so I'll call on CAO Eleanor to help us with, walk us through that one.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I'm just going to find my page here in the package.
Yep.
Okay. So, as you all know, there was a Remuneration and Allowance Commission who put together a report for council on council's remuneration. And to date, we have dealt with the remuneration part of it, but there were also a number of additional recommendations that were included in that report that we thought we would bring back to council to see if there's any interest in pursuing any of these items. So I can just touch through the list very briefly. There's 8. The first one is additional elected official screening. Onboarding and training of councillors, including mock council meetings. Developing job profiles for councillors and the mayor, deputy mayor. Having more public education on the role of elected officials within the community so the public understands what the positions entail. Consolidation of committees, and these are council standing committees to maintain and attract officials to office. The commission suggested reducing committees to reduce duplication, to reduce the number of meetings and reduce the time commitment of elected officials. The next one is term limit for elected officials. And then 7 is the review of the ward system and electoral boundaries, and 8 is a dedicated meeting space for elected officials on city premises. And I will leave that to you to contemplate and discuss. Thank
What
you.
was 6 again?
6 is term limits for elected officials to keep council engaged and vibrant. The commission would like to see term limits, although they did note that it is ultimately the electorate that will decide this.
I have a couple of questions,
Me too.
if, unless anyone else has.
I do too, but you go
Okay.
ahead.
So I guess there's a lot of this stuff that I'm in agreement with. I think the elected official screening is good. Maybe I'll just go through it I'll go through it point by point. I think that's good. The one question I have, and I think I understand why, but the credit check part, that's basically to say you have the ability to manage your own finances if you're going to be asked to make financial decisions, and is that kind of the purpose for the credit check?
I think so.
Okay. The onboarding and training of counselors, personally, as a recently elected council official, we did have their first onboarding session. I would like to see a 1-year refresher course. Because when we received, speaking personally here, when we received our first session, I didn't even know who Rory Chason was. I didn't really know what Rory Chason did. I didn't know who to go to on anything. being 1 year into the job, you have a much better understanding. And I think it would be good to go back and have a refresher course, because you look through it through a different lens. You're kind of deer in the headlights for the first one, and then you come back a year later. And I don't think it hurts and you would open up to anybody. If there's any multi-term counselor that wants to do it too, feel free to come along. So I think that's good. I like the mock council idea as well too. Job descriptions and profiles, I'm good with that. I do also like the tab on our city site, on our city's website, to do that. Under the consolidation of committees, who would oversee that work, Eleanor, or how would that look? Or would it be professional staff that would recommend that, or would this committee recommend that, or how would that look?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I think for that, you would probably bring in a governance consultant who could do an evaluation of the committees that you have right now, along with the scope and their mandate and what they work on, and then do a comparative analysis to other municipalities in terms of who they have for committees, what they cover, and what their scope is. Sometimes the committees have the same name, but they're actually working on very different things.
Right.
And then, of course, you would do that in alignment with the Municipal Government Act and what's required of the Municipal Government Act for elected officials here in municipalities and PEI.
Okay. I just have one other thing. The term limits for elected officials, I think it's, personally speaking, I think it's a good thing to have. I do agree that it's ultimately the electorate. We are doing this for the electorate. So the other part under point 7 was, should we look at reviewing our system? Either go into an open system, hybrid system with some picked in the wards and then councillors at large, or the other one, which would be adding 2 more, which I don't think would be terribly popular or needed. So I'm wondering, and Janice, this might be something that you could ask, I'm wondering if might be worth our while to find out what people think about that. Because we have no idea, because we're ultimately doing this for the electorate. And if the electorate would like to see term limits, we have no idea right now whether they do or whether they don't. And I know we have charlottetownhall.ca, which is designed to be interactive to allow for two-way conversation on ideas. And I'm wondering if charlottetownhall.ca could be used as a portal for us to put together a very short survey on the term limits idea and on the reconfiguration of our ward system. Just to kind of, it's not binding, it's not something that says, this is what we have to do, but just to try and maybe flush it out a little bit more to see whether there is any interest or whether people are happy with the way the current system is. I really have no idea, but I would just put that out there and as a thought. I guess maybe, Janice, would that be something that would be doable? If you could answer that question for me.
So I would just say, Mr. Chair, under number 7, we do have the note that an electoral boundaries commission is appointed within 90 days of the 2026 election. So that's the next time around that they would be looking at electoral boundaries.
Okay.
And I think a survey is a great idea, and perhaps being part of that process.
Yeah.
The one thing I would note, and I think we'd have to look into, the term limits for elected officials is something usually you would see in the Municipal Government Act. So even if we did a survey, which we could, what would progress out of that then would be a bit of an effort to try and get the Municipal Government Act changed to address something like that. So that could be,
But if I understand
thinking out
it,
loud, maybe something the Federation looks at versus Charlottetown alone.
okay.
Yeah.
But the MGA doesn't have, if I understand it, it doesn't have there's nothing in there
Not
about
right
term
now for
limits.
terms, no.
Right? But that doesn't mean that it can't happen. It just means that they don't have anything in there.
That's right.
Right. Okay. All right, just thinking out loud here, trying to put some thoughts on on the issue. Councillor McKinnon or Deputy Mayor? Deputy Mayor, I think you had
Doesn't
something.
matter. Okay. So this report is titled Additional Recommendations by Remuneration and Allowance Committee. And although I'm not opposed to the discussion and some of the things that have been outlined as things that could be questioned by mayor and council, I'm cautious to say that it's anything to do with the Remuneration and Allowance Committee, and I feel that they're outside of their terms of reference. So although these are great discussion points, I personally don't see this as part of the role of the Remuneration and Allowance Committee. And so I just wanted to put that out there, that perhaps these belong in a discussion, absolutely, but I don't see them as recommendations from remuneration and allowance, or appropriate recommendations from allowance and remuneration. So I'm just putting it out there.
I think that's why it ended up back here, because it didn't fit under and I think because it was brought up as potential, I think it came out it emanated from the information that they received from all the discussions, and I think they brought it forth fully recognizing that it wasn't under their purview to be doing that stuff, but the fact that it was articulated by councillors and by mayor and council, that I think they put it in there, and then once it was in there, it said, okay, well, what do we do with this? So I think that's kind of why it's here. I think there is a recognition that this does not fall under the commission's purview or under the bylaw itself, but I think the fact that it did get brought up maybe warranted a further discussion, and I think that was my understanding as to why it's even here on our table today. Am I correct in that, Eleanor?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Yeah, I think there are some things that are slightly connected but not fully connected, like the question about consolidation of committees. Well, it was raised that as an elected official, I'm attending all these committees, therefore my pay should be this for my time that I'm allotting into that. So that one has a connection, but some of them don't. So, but I think with their one-on-one interviews, these are things that were brought up and they felt they should raise these, even if it's not necessarily connected to the mandate that they were given. So I think the way that it's phrased in the report is just recommendations for council's consideration as items that were brought up, not that, you shall or anything like that.
Right.
And just a follow-up on that, because I think the bigger discussion is around the growth. I mean, a lot of these things that have come up through council's discussion with remuneration committee would be more around the growth and the tremendous growth around the city of Charlottetown and how that fits in terms of, the role of mayor and council. I mean, things have, we've grown so much, and they're anticipating, according to our growth management study, to grow again by, 2030, another, 18,000 people. So I think that although these are really great things to discuss, maybe we could ask, where do these actually belong for further discussion? And because I think they do warrant a bigger conversation, but I just don't see them under remuneration and allowance.
Yep. Councillor McKenna? Do you have anything?
Yes, thank you, Mr. Chair. Just a couple of points, I guess you've already touched on them. I fully support the idea of a survey asking about term limits, because I did hear that a lot at the door, where we should have 2 or 3 of, limit the amount of terms the elected officials are in place. Clarification, CAO, did you say it's 60 days after the next election or before?
Thank you,
Go ahead.
Mr. Chair, and through to Councillor McKinnon. They are appointed within 90 days of the 2026 election, so just after.
Okay. Yeah, I think we definitely, with the growth of the city, this is something that might be looked at. Is it every 4 elections?
That I'm not sure off the top of my head.
I thought it said every 3 after the third election. Didn't it say
Yes,
something about
you're
that in there?
correct.
The third, I'm not sure.
Which would bring us to 2026.
Six, okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, with the growth of the city and the expansion going, I think it's something that we could look at maybe sooner. Because I know Ward 9, the growth out there, and Ward 8, the growth out there. Come next election, whoever's running in Ward 8 and 9 have a big task on their hands, whereas downtown is not expanding except up. But and with onboarding, we definitely need more training, whether it's come back to the 1-year annual, and I know CAL, Eleanor, we've discussed this on our meetings, that we're just thrown to the wolves. We're sworn in December and show up in council, and like there should be a mock council for the newcomers. And like you said, we don't know who Rory is, we don't know who Janice is, we don't know who anybody is. We just show up and fly by the seat of our pants, get through that first one. It's like, it was tough. I think we need more training, or there should be a more onboarding for the new councilors. And it's probably a good refresher for the incumbents. Thank you.
I had a question about getting our packages. Is 5 working days feasible? There was a recommendation under term point number 7 under the consolidation of committees. The council packages be made at least 5 working days in advance of council meetings. Typically, we get them, under the current format, we get them one working day, because we get them on Friday before Monday. Or we get them, like we got this council package for the committee meeting yesterday at noontime. I think the 5 days is a little much, and it kind of prohibits you from adding. I don't know if I agree with the 5 days. I think that's a little too much. Maybe even. For me, it doesn't matter that, it would be different for Councillor McKinnon, who's still working. For me, it's not a big deal, because I'm retired, but, so I think 5 is not a appropriate number, maybe 2, maybe 3, whatever it might be. And now that we're moving to Tuesdays on our council meetings, that certainly will help, having that extra day to get the information read and prepared for any questions answered in advance of that.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. We can move it by a day or two. It's up to what council needs. So we haven't changed it yet, but like the agenda would still go for Fridays if you move to the Tuesday. So you'd have that
Yep.
extra day even so. But if
Yep.
Friday is still not enough time, then we could look at moving it up. It's up to really the elected officials and how much time you need to prepare for these agendas.
I think we start with Fridays, and
Okay.
because, I think the one extra day will make a difference in that. Do you have any more, Deputy Mayor?
Yeah, just,
Go ahead.
just another comment. I think just when we do move forward on growth of the city and council's role, I think we need to be very mindful that we don't base our decisions based on the existing persons in the roles. We base it more on the role itself, because in order to recruit and retain good folks to put their names forward as elected officials, I don't think we should base it on, well, I have time because I'm retired or I don't, because right now the role of a city councilor is a part-time thing. And although I totally respect what the chair is saying, where, he has more time, I have more flexibility, I think we need to be careful that we don't go down that road in terms of ensuring that we have good folks that represent the city like we are doing now. Thank you.
So the purpose of this report was to provide direction to administration on which recommendations are to be investigated or actioned. So will we move this information on to council and then have similar sort of discussion there to say, you know what, these are what the recommendations are and which ones do we want to keep in and have the vote there?
That's right. Thank you, Mr. Chair. Yeah, so it's just simply looking for direction from council, if there's any interest in further exploring. So we don't need solutions on the spot in council, but you could say, we'd like administration to look at 1, 4, 5, and 6
Okay.
for now, or whatever you choose. That's just an example.
So, do you have a
Just another question. Just for clarification, should we as the committee not at least begin the committee work by, you know, if direction is to be given to staff, sometimes we end up taking stuff to council and then the first thing we hear from council is, well, why didn't the committee do their work? Why didn't they get some of this stuff prepared before it comes to council? So are we being premature by going to council yet? Or is this just going to be an open discussion with council, as CAO Mohammed said, where we look at these recommendations?
do you want to answer that, Eleanor?
Well, thank you, Mr. Chair, and through the Deputy Mayor. This is a bit of a chicken and egg question that we keep seeing coming up.
Yeah.
I mean, the role of council committees is to look at policy programs and new services, things like that. The challenge is, it's council who decides where we should be spending our time,
Right.
right? You could look through this list and you can make a recommendation to council from the committee of where you think we should spend our time. And maybe there's a little bit more committee work that you want. Maybe you need more answers or more information about any of these before you recommend them to council. Or you send the whole list to council and council tells you what we're interested in spending our time in. Therefore, committee, you're going to do more work on 2, 3, 4, and 5.
Right.
Or something to be like that.
Personally, I think since this information did come from all of mayor and council, I think it's important to have it brought back for their consumption and to have the opportunity to, because it's really an information report at this time. This is what we received, this is what we heard, this is a summary of the feedback that was given by mayor and council. So they don't necessarily, or may not, or partially relate to the remuneration bylaw that was from which it came. But I do believe that there is value in having us have a broader discussion with council to see where we do, which ones we do want to action. So I think it's important that they hear what was brought up and for them to have the opportunity to provide input, because we would be either, you know, if we're going to hire a consultant to come in and look at something, we would have to make that decision as a group, right?
That's correct.
In terms of consolidation of committees, just as an example, like when we're talking about potentially consolidating committees, it may require a consultant to come in. So they may have more questions than we have right here at this committee level. So I think it warrants a further discussion by council and bring forth the information that we received here today and let them have their thoughts on it as well.
So, Chair, could I make a suggestion to committee that the information is sent out to all council to review, read, and then bring back the and questions and concerns to you as chair, and we do a little bit more committee work once council has a few weeks or a month to actually read the report before we end up going into a council meeting to have a debate over information that maybe people need a little bit more time to read.
Sure.
That would be my suggestion.
Fair enough. So basically, take this report, say we discussed this, please revert any information back to me, and then we'll take it to our next committee meeting, and then make a recommendation as to what we feel should happen.
Yep.
Okay? Let's give her a shot. Doesn't require a motion or anything, does it, Eleanor? Or?
I don't think so.
No. Okay. Lovely. Thank you for that, Deputy. And Councillor McKinnon for your discussion. So moving on to the next item. 2024-25 draft budgets. So we have information technology, city government, and communications. So Rory, I guess you're going to be up first?
Mr. Chair, if I may, if I could just start first, because
Okay.
then what I say will flow into the other folks, if that helps.
All right.
So, Chantal?
I have uploaded some documents into the OneDrive for you guys, so you can follow along. It has the new initiative forms, and it just has the title budget sheet, just with the breakdown of amounts. Open it, follow along.
Sorry, what's the?
Sorry, Chantal, is it under the same name that you sent to me, the same file, which was MR City Government, November 30th?
No, theirs is in the OneDrive now, and it's all a PDF to review as you're going through it.
Okay.
Oh, okay,
In your OneDrive, you see it?
yeah. So click on the city government budget one?
Yes.
Okay.
There should be a report form to start it off.
Do you want to pull it up too? Can we do that? Thank you.
So are we going to the communications budget or the IT budget, or it's just right directly to city government budget?
We're doing city
City
government first.
Gotcha.
If we could, please.
Okay, thank you.
I can start speaking
Sure.
about it if you're ready.
Yep.
So it's fairly straightforward in terms of where we are in budget. There is one line that today I'm going to ask you to ignore, which is the salaries and benefits line. We have some discrepancies in there that we need to fix up, and that will be fixed up in time for the Finance Committee meeting. Part of the discrepancy that's in there is there was a pension adjustment that was put in there, so you can see it's quite a big difference between 2024 and 2025. $1 million difference, so that's going to be fixed up, so that won't be an issue by the time it comes to finance. I think I'll just quickly, it's really a status quo budget that you're seeing out of city government. Not much is changing. What has changed is, in comparison to previous years, economic development was broken out last year. IT has been broken out this year, and communications has been broken out this year. So that's why I just asked if this group could go first and then move on to the other groups. The other big numbers that have really changed that I just want to highlight for you on here is the miscellaneous line. If you look in 2024, it says 168,000. 2025, it says 81,000. The reason why it is so big this year is under miscellaneous, we have the elections reserve. So the money we put aside for elections is in there. And then also some recruitment was billed in there that should have come out of the salaries pot as well. That needs adjustment. Other than that, the amounts for reports and expenses, they are all relatively the same. There's not a lot of change. You might see slight changes, like in 2024, 13,000 under advertising and communications reduced down to 6,000. Again, communications is being broken out from this budget, so those are the kind of changes that you would see. And I think that's pretty much it. Like, the numbers aren't too different from the previous year is what I'm getting at. It's pretty much a status quo for city government. Before I move into new initiatives, are there any questions at all about this chart in front of you? Okay, I'll keep going. So under new initiatives, we really don't have that many. One is a carryover from last year that council deferred, which was a diversity, equity, and inclusion framework and action plan. So that's back again in new initiative forms. That would be developing a plan for the municipality to better address equity, diversity, and inclusion, including internally and externally for the city, along with training of staff. But this would be the actual plan itself. So 60,000 is what's estimated for that new initiative. The next new initiative is a Director of Community Services. So I have yet, because we still have to finish doing the salary calculations, I don't know yet if it will be the full cost of a director or a partial cost of a director based on what's in our budget right now and what our spend has been for this year. So we'll be able to determine that in time for finance. But really the purpose of this Director of Community Services position is to make sure that we have a strategic person who's overseeing the delivery of customer service within our organization, impacting the utility, Parks and Recreation, Environment, and Public Works. They would also be leading, making sure that all legal and legislative requirements are being made by modernizing our operational systems and reporting. And part of our challenge as a city, I know there's some questions about having directors. Once upon a time, the city did have 3 directors, and then they eliminated those positions and went to a very flat structure. Our challenge by going to a very flat structure of just managers is managers are in the day-to-day and they can't get into the strategic part of things. And it's actually our weakness right now by not having enough folks working on strategic things for our municipality that really have an eye on the horizon and pay a significant amount of attention to risk management. So what we see are different things coming out in the municipality of risks that we could have mitigated along the way in terms of service and financial as well. So we did have a Director of Community Services that we had here who was on contract, Sue, who was here, but she's now finished. And in the meantime, what we've done is we have put an acting position in place for the Director of Community Services. And the reason why we did that was not to presuppose the budget process. It was that we need the help in that area now, the support in that area now, but it also provided an excellent opportunity for existing staff to be able to understand what's required in a strategic position like that. So we have some folks acting in it, and it provided an opportunity for them to be able to act. And should they wish to apply for the position when it becomes available, it gives them a better standing in terms of competing to know at how to pitch themselves for that position. So really it's a staff development piece as well. So that is in the budget as a possible new initiative. And again, we'll have the cost of that to be determined in time for the finance meeting. The next new initiative that we have on the list, and this came actually from a request of council to look at last year, was to analyze whether we should bring in a city solicitor or not, given that we spend almost $500,000 in legal fees every year. So we do think that this will be able to help us out in terms of our legal fees and bring those under control. And we do estimate that the position will cost from around $129,000 to $159,000 a year, but it will be a wash, hopefully. We'll reduce the legal fees by bringing this person in to be able to handle all these different legal aspects of our day-to-day operations. So I believe that is it for the new initiatives under city government budget. I guess finance or IT is up next.
Can I just ask one quick question on this? And that would be, so just if I heard you correctly, CAO Mohammed, the 2 initiatives that aren't priced out yet will be priced out before they hit the Finance Committee to look at. And I would question, I mean, I guess we'll know when it comes to finance. I can't imagine getting a city solicitor for that small amount of money, but maybe you know something I don't, but just my 2 cents worth. Thank you.
Thank you, through the chair. So for municipal city solicitors versus legal, private sector law firm solicitors, when we did a scan of salaries, that's what we found. They were earning between 129 and 159. It falls in the band that you would see for the directors. So we do have a band that we would put them in already. Question? Okay.
Just one question, Eleanor. So going back to the Director of Community Services, the request, we would be basically reinstating the 3 directors that used to exist prior to, I don't know when, because I wasn't here before. So it would be, because that has been a contract position, and we have 2 that have just been recently hired, one about to start very soon. So we're looking for a 3rd and that would basically restore the complement that used to exist in the city prior to the reconfiguration that took place.
Thank you. That's correct, Mr. Chair.
Okay. Thank you. Go ahead, Rory.
Okay, so we've got the committee report here looking to go over the proposed IT capital and operational budgets for the 2024-25 year. We're looking at a capital budget approximately 909,000. That includes about 460,000 in carryover from the 2023-24 fiscal year. Multiple projects are awaiting completion of building renovations or the fiber network installation, and that's why they haven't been completed. Then we're looking at the operational budget, the total of 1.2 million. That includes 155,000 in new initiatives. If we exclude the new initiatives, the operational budget has a year-over-year reduction in spending of about 5%. Okay, so just looking at the capital budget, can you zoom in a little bit on that, Chantel, just on the, there, I think that should be good. So just details of what I already covered. If there's any questions on any of these specific line items, I can go over them, but the top one that already have account codes, those are the existing ones with either carryovers or new funds, because it's a yearly purchase, like computers we purchase every year. The bottom 3 are things like IT network hardware from Maclear Drive to Brackley. So the idea there is we're connecting Brackley Point, the new building, to Maclear Drive with a fiber link. So that reduces the need to rely on Bell for connection. So we'd save about $4,000 per year. So it would save us money in the long run. Forensic server for the police, they already have one, but they need some extra for sensitive materials and backups. And then the Milestone expansion, that's the server that they use for the eWatch system. They're expanding that service, so they need, it's every few years they need expansion on that system. Any questions on the capital budget?
Chair? Just one quick question.
Go ahead.
And so the software that's required for police services falls under your budget. So we won't see this, we won't see any software requests or any related expenses under protective services. Is that what I'm hearing?
For the most part, yes. There may be some one-off pieces that they don't involve IT in, where there's no administration by IT staff, there's no administration by our staff, so that may go through Protective and Emergency Services. But anything that requires IT oversight, IT administration, those pieces come through IT.
Okay.
Okay,
Carry on, Rory.
so we'll move on to operational budget. Okay, so we've got the budget 2025 is the one we're looking at, and we've got computer supplies, that's just our general day-to-day supplies like cables. Then we've got network support and maintenance agreements, that's a big portion of our budget, so that's just agreements for software, agreements for hardware, maintenance for things like that.
Why is it almost doubled, Rory?
Yeah, so the
Over doubled.
Yeah, so if you look at the estimated 2024, I'd not 100% sure where that number comes from, but I would say it's probably going to be a lot more than that by the time 2024 actually finishes.
Okay.
There are a lot of projects that we put in the operational budget that are unknown last year, and by the time we went out for RFP, they came out way under budget. So we saved, 75,000 here, 30,000 there.
Okay.
So there's probably about just over 100,000 in dollars that were not spent.
Okay.
Yeah. And then the other piece is the 155,000 in new initiatives, which we'll go over later. Then we've got our service level agreements. That's for things like printers and for website hosting. Then desktop software subscriptions, that's mostly for our Office 365. And then internet, and then we've got staff development, travel and transportation, and then phones. Phones actually includes our cell phones, our landlines, and it also includes our PIX radio system for police and fire.
Chair?
Go ahead, Deputy.
Yep. Just for clarification, network support and maintenance agreements, somewhere in there, is that buried the salary dollars as well for your department?
No, just, Eleanor, do you have the IT salary still in city government, right?
Yes, oh, yes, sorry.
Yeah, yeah.
Just ignore the salaries.
So is that where they belong? Is that kind of add confusion? Should those salary dollars not be included in, if IT is going to have its own budget, should it not have its? It will.
Yeah, that's part of the confusion.
Okay, so why do we have it here today if we don't have that done yet?
Do you want to speak to that?
Best intentions, Deputy Mayor. We had tried, we had some sicknesses where we couldn't get the data out. In recent days, as we were digging further into data, we saw that there were some positions missing that should have been there. So we're trying to make those fixes. So you will see that for finance. It will be there and it will be broken out and a lot clearer. So apologies. Normally you would.
So just to follow up on that, are we going to be asked today as a committee to approve to move this on to finance without us seeing the full picture? Is that kind of the intent of today's meeting?
Yes. Through the chair, we could bring it back here if you wish to see the salary line. Other than that, or we just take it through, which means we would have to schedule another meeting before the end of next week so we can stay on our larger, broader schedule. Or we just move it forward without knowing that line, but knowing we're going to see that line through finance and what's coming through to council.
And just one final follow-up on that, although I totally get what you're saying, C.O. Mohammed, I'm just concerned that we're going to once again look like we're not doing our work as a committee because we're just moving this on to finance without actually doing our committee work. Anyways, just my 2 cents worth.
Okay. I'm sorry, I was talking to Chantel or something. What was this in reference to? I missed what this was in reference. I was talking
Sure.
to Chantel and something else.
Sure. So right now, when we're reviewing these individual budgets, communications, IT, the salary dollars are not reflective in the budgets, but the new initiatives are there. So therefore, my question was, where are the salaries, and the CAO indicated that they just kind of basically ran out of time to move those things into the appropriate budgets. So my question back was, my fear is we're not doing our work as a committee if we move this along to finance before we actually see what we're actually moving on to finance, because the budgets aren't reflective of the salary dollars within each of the micro departments within city government.
Okay. Getcha. All right.
Okay.
So do we have to, I guess that's the question, is at the end of the day, we have to know what dollars we're actually approving on, right?
Well, I totally understand where the CIO is coming from in terms of that, sometimes they just run out of time, but my concern is that as the committee that moves us on to finance as a recommendation, we're recommending without knowing the full grasp of what we're recommending to finance.
Right.
And then it concerns me that as a committee, we're not doing our committee work.
Yep.
Mr. Chair, if I may. In the bigger, broader scheme of things, each committee is moving things on to Finance Committee without understanding the full financial implications of what you're pushing forward, right? You could say, yeah, we, like every other committee, oh yeah, these initiatives are great, but we're still going to, in order to create that package for Finance Committee, the administration is still going to have to go through all those initiatives and essentially make the final recommendations of what should go through to council. Some of these initiatives might hit the floor, in other words. So, I mean, ultimately, there will be adjustments all around of different things that have gone on at the different committees. The salary thing has been an issue at a couple of committees, if that makes you feel any better, in terms of the changes that have to be made. So ultimately, that final budget that goes through to finance still comes back through that filter of administration of making another recommendation to the finance committee based on everything that's been collected through each of these committees. So that's the best I can give you. We can come back with those salaries to you, but it's a question to those committee. If you have those numbers, would that change what your recommendation is to move this all forward anyway? I guess would be my question for you.
Okay. So it's all part of a broader picture that will eventually become clearer.
One full package, yeah.
Okay.
So then my only comment on that is, what in the name of time are we doing talking about it today anyways, if it's all going back to finance?
Well, I think we could say that about different things at different times as well, too, and that's a much larger discussion that I think we have all had. So, which comes back to committee reconfiguration and committee structuring and all that, so which goes back to educational sessions and goes back to how we conduct our business, so I'm not disagreeing with you. Anyway, so I'm comfortable with that. I think we move it forward, and if we're not in the only boat doing that, then I think we go ahead with it too. But it's a valid point that you're raising, Deputy. Thank you.
You also have communications to speak to there still.
Yeah.
You were finished, were you finished?
There are the new initiative forms if you want to go over those as well. Chantal, could you just zoom out just a little bit? Just one or two. There, that's good. Okay, so the first new initiative, IT manager. Right now, the IT officer is the head of the department. The IT manager position would focus on leading the direction of technology use. Position would be responsible for development and maintenance of IT policies, processes, and best practices. This position would work closely with department managers to build secure and effective technology infrastructure. The current IT officer position was intended to perform these duties while focusing on carrying out operations, providing technical support, and maintaining systems. But as the technology has grown, the IT officer position is focused a lot more on managing direction of department and less on carrying out operations. So we can move on to the next new initiative.
So Rory,
Oh,
is
sorry,
that,
go ahead.
is that a change in the salary structure by 13,000 per
That's-
year?
Yeah,
So basically, it's converting whatever the current salary is and bumping it up by 13,476.
yes.
Okay.
So we'd still only have 2 IT people, or we still have 2 officers plus a manager?
So there'd be a conversion of the IT officer to IT manager. Then there'd be the IT support specialist and IT support technician. And then the next new initiative is for an additional IT support technician. Okay, so another new initiative. This is for an additional.
Sorry, Rory.
Sorry, yeah, go ahead.
So right now, your title is,
IT officer. There is no
and
IT,
Taryn Bear's title is,
IT support technician.
okay,
And then there's also Spencer, who is the IT support specialist.
Spencer.
Spencer Messiah. So he's he's here in City Hall.
Okay.
He's just in a different office.
So right now, it's looking to convert your position to a managerial position, add in another IT support technician.
Yes, that's correct.
So there, in your office would be, go from 2 to 3,
So
effectively?
3
there-
to 4.
yeah,
3 to 4, sorry.
yeah, exactly. Yeah.
With Spencer.
yeah.
I keep thinking of you and Taryn Bear as like a collective unit over there, so. Okay,
Okay.
all right.
Yeah. So yeah, the second new initiative is for that second IT support technician position. I can go over it if you want, but no. Okay, we'll move on to the next new initiative. So this is for meeting agenda software. So as we've moved to digital agendas and packages, meeting agenda software would allow us to better organize materials and documentation around meetings, agendas, and packages. So this meeting agenda software would focus on supporting municipal governments, and it can also include options to expand civic engagement. Usually these platforms provide reduced complexity, improved transparency, and a single portal to sort, manage, and distribute minutes, agendas, and other documents to the right people at the right time. So this would effectively replace the way we get agendas to you through OneDrive with a different portal. It can be accessed typically on a cell phone, tablet, laptop, any device. Anything that's publicly available can also be accessed by the public through a similar portal. The platforms typically can also include video hosting. That's potentially an issue for us. We currently host only through YouTube, and things like people playing music during a presentation can lead to copyright strikes on our channel, and we can lose all those videos. So hosting this through a different platform, we're not as likely to get copyright strikes. We're not as likely to lose all that material. So that's a direction that I'd like to move.
Okay.
Chair?
Sure. Go ahead, Deputy, sorry.
So just a question through you, Chair, to the IT officer, Rory. So if the team moved from 3 to 4, I would assume that the current working space that you're in, there'd be a cost associated with moving the team elsewhere, because I can't imagine the space you're in now could sustain 4 people. So is that reflective in your budget as well?
No, so any changes to our desk space, it would just be an addition of a desk space that may or may not be here at City Hall. So it could be, at the time, we would make the decision where that person would sit. They could be at the police station, for example.
Which doesn't have much room.
Doesn't have much room, but does have a lot of need for IT support. So there was at one point a IT support person at the police station, and they were kept busy all day, every day. There is a desk there that we use when we're on site at the police station, and that would function as a desk. So this next new initiative, this is coming to IT through the police services. This is for digital forensic services. They're looking at a product, Magnet Gray Key and Magnet Axiom. Essentially, this allows them to do things like get evidence off of phones. So when they're bringing a phone in, sometimes those devices are locked, encrypted, you can't get into them. These tools allow them to get into those encrypted devices and get all the data they need quickly and easily.
So I think that currently takes a very long process. I remember being in the department and seeing that there was a whole raft of phones that were waiting.
Yeah, they're typically, it could be as long as a full weekend for one phone.
Yeah.
So that's the main purpose of this product.
Okay.
And the next new initiative, Chantel, could you just go to the next one? Thanks. So this is for a computerized maintenance management system. One example would be the system called CityWorks. CityWorks is developed by the company that we currently work with, Esri, for ArcGIS. So these systems, they're used to manage assets and maintenance of these assets. The modern platforms can also provide a wide array of options related to staff efficiency and civic engagement. City could take advantage of most of these options by integrating this with our existing GIS system. They can provide systems for creating and managing inspections, work orders, service requests, and they allow the public to self-report issues, which can automatically create work orders for staff to assess. Many assets can be managed by these systems, including facilities, fleets, trees, sanitary collection, storm collection, wastewater treatment, and water distribution. And this is the ArcGIS Urban. So this is a urban planning platform. It's designed for urban planning. It offers a wide range of tools and capabilities that enable city planners to effectively manage and analyze spatial data, visualize and simulate urban development scenarios, and make informed decisions. It can integrate with various types of data and systems for better analysis, collaboration, and decision-making. So this one is, I would say there'd be, I think I said 3 licenses. I'm not sure if it actually says there, no. So yeah, we'd be looking at 3 licenses for this, so that would allow 3 of the staff over there to use it. It can do things like build out 3D environments of a projected development so that the public or councillors can see what it might look like once the development is in place. And I believe that's the last one. Yeah, that's the last one.
Chantel, can you back up to the second last one?
Be the computerized management.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Does the city not have a management system now for fleets and facilities, and trees and?
So they've got all individual systems for this, but none of them are a complete package. So, for example, the trees, they have I think it's called Tree Keeper. It's a system that works well for what they do, but it doesn't do. I'm trying to think. So, in the example of Tree Keeper, they may not move over to this product. They could move over, but they may not wish to. But if we look at the fleets, they manage that through, they use GPS tracking to kind of manage where the fleet is, but their actual management of the fleet as an asset is not really done through any system. Yeah.
Some of you have heard me speak of this before. This is the customer service platform as well. So when people have complaints about things going on in the city, fence needs repair, you'll see on there that allows for the public to self-report issues and automatically create a work order system. So on their cell phone, they could be walking through a park and maybe there's something there that doesn't belong there, piece of furniture or something like that. They can pinpoint on the map where it is and make an automatic report to the city, which creates a work order for us to go deal with it. This would also be for elected officials when you're receiving complaints from constituents. Either you yourself can make the report on their behalf, or they can make the report. Or if this is a constituent who can't make it into the city for whatever reason and can't get on the computer, they could always call us, and then we'd enter it into this system to be able to be addressed and tracked.
Would councillors be aware when something that had to be addressed, would they be made aware of that through this, if they so chose, or is that an option as
You
well?
generally wouldn't set up for the board, would you? No. It would be, if you had made the complaint yourself on someone's behalf, you would get automatic responses as it was updated. So as someone finished the task, they click finish the task, you would get an automatic response to say it's been taken care of.
Oh,
Just like if you were a member of the public reporting into the system. But you wouldn't receive notifications of all the complaints in your ward.
Okay.
And things that are being addressed in your ward.
okay. Would that be available if I so chose to, would that be able to be broken out by ward sort of thing?
That'd be a lot of notifications.
So I don't think you would want.
I
to
don't want,
receive
no, I'm not looking for, I'm just trying to get a hint, or me or a counselor said, well, what's going on in my ward? What are people, can you see that? Would that be information that
So-
would be available?
Typically, if you made that request, that would typically go through to the person that's managing the system. In our situation, that would most likely be our GIS coordinator. That may be different by the time we go forward with it. I'm not sure.
Yeah.
But typically, that would go to that person, and they would be able to go through the data and pull that data out and give you a report.
That's what I was wondering, yeah. I'm not looking to get notifications all the time, don't get me wrong, it's just try to get a little bit of a high-level view of what the nature of the concerns or situations might be.
The other benefit of this system is if someone's already gone in and made that complaint about that particular thing, the system will let you know that complaint's already been made. It can give you the ability to heart it or to like it to show that you too have an issue with that complaint. So you'd be able to see how many people complained about that one thing. But it potentially could slow down the complaints that our elected officials are getting because they'll be able to see, okay, it's in the system, it's being addressed. And no need to take further action.
Anything else, Rory?
I don't think so, unless there's any other questions.
Deputy? Good. Councillor McKenna? All right, Janice? Communications?
Chair,
Yep.
is there any heat? Or are there
I'm
mittens?
lovely
I'm
in
freezing.
here. Do you want my jacket?
Thank you, Chair. I do notice I'm the only one showing up with a stack of paper. It's my happy space. Today, I'm bringing forward the second budget for the Communications Department. It's essentially a status quo representation of what we had last year. There is the communications and marketing expenses that were there the same as last year. Those expenses benefit the entire organization, either as a whole, directly or indirectly, such as with charlottetownhall.ca. There's a slight increase in the request for staff development budget due to the increasing costs of the main development opportunity, which is a conference in Toronto, and taking into consideration the team size. And there is the addition of staff wages and salaries, which has previously been a part of the administration budget. And I would like to just continue the theme of this afternoon and say there will be a small adjustment to the salaries line. And it will be a small decrease in that number. It's just being worked out. I don't think it'll be too far off of what you see there. What you don't see reflected in there is a new initiative form request to add a second communications officer position as recommended in the KPMG report, as well as a new initiative form request to address the city's website, and that came through direction from council.
Chair?
Go ahead, Deputy.
Thank you. So just to clarify, your team would go from 3 to 4? So that would be you, 2 officers, and a communications coordinator? If your initiative was a success, is that correct?
That's correct.
Thank you.
Do you have any other questions on that? Will I go to my new initiative forms?
I think just go to the forms.
I can do that. So the first one is the new city website, and as I had mentioned, this was a result of a council direction. I think a lot of people would be happy to see this. A website is a major tool for any municipality, and I think most people agree that our current website is not what we would want it to be. It doesn't function the way we would want it to function. The project is quite a large one, and that's reflected in the projected cost of about $200,000. That includes $150,000 to hire a company that would actually build the website. But prior to undertaking that actual work, they would also engage with the community to make sure that there's a needs assessment. They would be liaising with representatives of the organization, making sure that our needs are being reflected, as well as migrating over content and making sure that what content is migrated over is actually usable and helpful. It also includes roughly $50,000 to hire a contract digital writer. So that would be a position that would create or rewrite content as was required for the new site, liaising between the departments and the communications team and our external stakeholders, just to ensure that the content that is generated is done so on time and uploaded appropriately. We estimate that it would cost upwards of $20,000 as a carrying fee for web hosting. So that's not included in there, but I just wanted to make a note of it going forward so that council is aware of that potential ongoing cost associated with this. Do you have any questions about that one?
So that carrying fee of 20,000, that'd be an annual fee?
Yes.
So what will this do to the current websites? We have 2, I think we had touched on outside, so.
The current website would no longer exist. We would remove that, wipe it from our brains, and have a fresh new website. A lot of people have commented how much they really like the look of charlottetownhall.ca because it's clean, it's fresh, it's very approachable and user-friendly. And we would be looking at getting something that is also clean and fresh and user-friendly.
So we have to start from scratch. We can't just revamp what we already have? Or is that too difficult?
It would be difficult, and I think it would cost just as much, if not more, and Rory agrees. It would probably end up costing more because of the work that would need to be put into it to bring it up to a standard of what we're looking for. The capabilities just aren't there with the system that's in place right now.
Thank you.
Janice, just a question. So we would still continue to have, this would be a charlottetown.ca 2.0, and we would still continue to have charlottetownhall.ca. So we would still have the 2 portals. is there a potential to integrate the functionality of charlottetownhall.ca within a new website, so it's one-stop shopping? Because some people are still confused. I know there's a lot of complaints about our website and its functionality. That's been well documented. But if people have asked me before, why do we have two separate sites and why, and I know I understand, but I think John Q. Public does not, may not. Can you answer that?
The question that I heard was, can we take the functionality from charlottetownhall.ca and have that in the website, in the new website?
Yeah.
I'm not a developer and I don't know is the truth. It's very common to have the two linked but separate.
Okay.
We did work to get the link at the bottom of the charlottetown.ca page so that you can just click and go through straight away. And like any new technology, there's always going to be a building process. The more we use charlottetownhall.ca, the more we point towards it, the more people will accept it and understand that, oh, when I want to engage on a particular project, this is where I go. When I want to just learn information and take that on board, I go to the website.
Okay. Good, thanks.
Yeah.
Deputy?
Yeah, thank you. Just to build on that comment on the website, I would think that if this initiative ends up going forward, there'd be many more conversations and direction around the use of two versus one if this is a successful initiative, I would think, right? Yeah.
Through to the chair, thank you. Absolutely. I think one of the pivotal pieces to build upon would be a needs analysis, both for the internal and the external audiences. And if that's something that needs to be talked about, then that gets included in that analysis.
Thank you. And just to, one other final, more of a comment, I noticed as we've gone through the initiatives that the department has ranked their priorities. So in this case, the communications officer is ranked as an A, the website is ranked as a B. But down below, it says standing committee rating code, and we've not done that today. So I'm just wondering, how do we move this on to finance if the committee has not included their rating code in here? Or is that just there and it's not meant to be there?
That's pretty interesting. No one's done it of all the committees.
I thought last year, this is where the committee did it. They gave their rating code
Which
and
would
then,
make sense, but
and
not
then we
one of
moved
them
on.
have done it.
Cool.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. But your other committees haven't been doing it, right? Because you sat in on a couple.
Maybe speak into your mic, Councillor McGinn.
Sorry. Yeah, economic development, we didn't have any new initiatives like this, but we did last year rate each one that came through. And I'm not sure which committee that we sat on or last year, but to your point, it probably is a good idea, Deputy.
I recall doing something like that with our initiatives last year.
Yeah,
I do.
just didn't do it this year on any of them.
Okay. I think there's going to be a lot of questions coming up to the finance part in terms of what actually gets prioritized. Maybe that's something we have to look at as a whole. Maybe Eleanor, you wanted to say something?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I think the tricky part here with these committees is committee has the ability to say whether they support or don't support something, but they don't have the ability to reject something, so it stops here at the committee level. We went with a different format this year. Some folks in some committees have used these forms and others haven't used these forms. So that's something that we're going to have to tighten up in terms of consistency for next year to decide what works best. But yes, there will be, in terms of the budget, when it hits finance committee, there will be a rationale of what's in there versus what's not in there. But that draft budget that's created that goes through Finance Committee then goes to council. And council may have a preference for other things that they want to put into that budget. And then it'll be discussion of, okay, well, if you'd like that to come in, then something needs to come out. Or you need to raise taxes.
All right. Carry on, Janice.
Chair?
Okay.
Go ahead, Deputy.
So just once again, it's in these initiatives forms and we've not done it. I just want to flag the fact that, again, it will have a perception that we're not doing our committee work by not putting in a committee priority. I don't really have a question on it. It's just a comment. Thank you.
Okay. Go ahead, Janice.
Will I move to the second initiative form? So the second initiative is for a second full-time communications officer that was recommended in the KPMG report. The governance report noted the opportunity for greater civic engagement, better leveraging of opportunities to share information, improving internal communication, and supporting collaboration. I would like to add that the addition of an extra communications officer will free up time and energy for the rest of the organization, because right now they are supporting us as much as we're supporting them in the way that they have to deliver us information. And basically, if we had another person who was able to cover the work that was happening in this organization, because I feel confident in saying we're all aware of how much the city has grown and how much is actually happening in here. Our ability to support that and get the information out is hampered by our lack of people. So the people on the ground are supporting us by delivering things, and we can help take that off of their plate and let them actually do the jobs that they are really good at doing.
Go ahead.
Thanks. Just a comment, I mean, it's an overall theme, I've heard it in all of the various committees that have been doing the work around budget preparation. And the common theme I'm hearing across the board is the exponential growth of the city of Charlottetown. And so I think that will probably warrant further discussion down the road, but it is a common theme that we've grown up really fast. And yeah, we've got some major decisions to make and some, yeah, hopefully we get our tax base back at some point so that we can address all these problems. Thank you.
Well, and I think another, and again, I don't have any frame of reference on this, but it seems we're really increasing the number of human resource positions, kind of in looking at for IT and communications and administration. And at the end of the day, I guess we have to figure out, can we afford these, or do we have to raise taxes, or how do we, because they have to be paid for, and how are we going to get a bigger piece of the pot from the money that comes back? But I guess for me, Janice, I'm just wondering, so we currently have you, Jessica, and Rob. Are Rob and Jessica communications officers? Is that their title?
No, we currently have myself. Jess is on maternity leave.
She's on maternity leave, right?
So I have made an offer to a contract to come in and replace at an officer level. And then we have a staff member named Brittany, who is the communications coordinator.
Okay, and we're looking for a communications officer.
A second officer, correct.
All right. So, that's a request,
It is indeed.
right? do we want to attach a priority to either one of any of these, items?
Chair?
Deputy?
So if we are going to attach a priority to these ones, then we're going to have to go
We
back
would have
to
to
all
go
of our
back to all of them.
initiatives and do the same thing. And maybe we can ask CAO Mohammed. I know she said that she's changed the process a little bit this year, and so if the other committees aren't doing that, will it cause confusion if the other committees weren't doing that or not? Not sure how we should proceed.
CEO Allner?
Okay, thank you, Chair. So the other committees have just moved it forward to Finance Committee. And it's because the challenge is there's over 30 positions being asked for this year. So there needs to be analysis done at the administration level in terms of what positions are being put forward. So every committee could put this as a priority, but that prioritization still needs to take place. So with the other committees, not one committee has turned around and said, no, that initiative can't move forward. They've just moved everything forward.
All right,
Thank you.
we'll do the same. Okay, thank you, Janice. Any new business? Want to add? Nope. Motion to adjourn? Deputy Mayor Yankoff, seconded by Councilor McKinnon. Thank you, everyone, for your presentations, and have a great day.